It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Eric M. Block, DMD, CAGS, FICOI, lives and practices in the town of Acton, Massachusetts, about 30 minutes west of Boston. He is a member of the American Dental Association, the Massachusetts Dental Society, and the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, and is a fellow of the International Congress of Oral Implantology. He received an undergraduate degree in psychology from Tulane University, where he was a walk-on for the Division I tennis team. He earned his DMD from Nova Southeastern College of Dental Medicine in Fort Lauderdale in 2002, and then completed a 2-year dental implantology residency at Boston, where he was also a former instructor. He is highly experienced with the latest 3D technology and computer-guided implant planning techniques, and uses a digital workflow to make the implant process more efficient and accurate. He enjoys living in Acton and being part of the community. When not in the office, you'll probably find him on the tennis court, practicing yoga, or spending time with his wife, Soanne, and children, Charlotte and Axel. He recently launched dealsfordentists.com, which is a marketplace website that connects dentists to dental companies. It is designed to help dentists save time and money. Dentists can view and compare the latest new customer offers and discounts from vendors across the industry. It is free to use, and dentists can target a specific category or browse them all. Deals for Dentists also gives dental companies a risk-free platform to promote their products or services and reach dentists from across the country. The site has plans of growing with a podcast, blog, newsletter, and a lot of social media engagement. Whether you are a new grad or an experienced dentist, everyone deserves to know they are getting the best deal. As a practicing dentist for almost 20 years, Eric says he has found the new customer offer to be a major factor in his decision-making process. And he typically doesn't move forward with a new product or service unless there's a good incentive to buy, such as get your first month free or buy 20 implants to get a complimentary surgical kit. This is why he launched Deals for Dentists. He wants dentists to efficiently find these types of dentists without having to spend a substantial amount of time searching. And by the way, this is not a commercial. Eric didn't pay me to come on the show. He did offer free tennis lessons, which I think if you gave me a... So who was your favorite tennis lesson? Did you like the guy? Who was the guy that was always throwing a fit at the referees?
McEnroe?
McEnroe. Was that your guy, or was it Iceberg Borg?
Yeah, McEnroe was one of my guys, and then of course Agassi later on. He was like the rock star back then, so I was a big Agassi guy for a while.
Oh, I was a big Agassi guy after he lost all that gorgeous hair and went bald, and then I thought,
right.
now he's a real rock star. It's always nice when the bald guys get a former gorgeous long-haired hippie to join the club. My gosh, there's so many things I want to talk about, but again, guys, this is not a commercial. I have no economic incentive with him. I'm not promoting deals for dentist.com. I just thought it's really cool, and if one of my homies starts a new company, I wanted to come here and tell us about it. So tell us about your journey. I mean, most people are thinking, I'm fine with Patterson, Shine, Benco, Burkhart, whatever. But now I've noticed, actually, this is really interesting, Eric. In economics, I was formally trained that you go through this back and forth of consolidation, deconsolidation, consolidation, deconsolidation. Like when I was in college, there were, 100 beer companies and taverns and all that, and I watched it all consolidate to Budweiser and Coors and Miller Lite. And then it all deconsolidated again, and now they're and so when you look at the curve, independent breweries to maximum consolidation, we're right back where we started. So from 80 to 40, we've done a full cycle, and the same thing happened with dental supplies. Now you got to remember when I got out in '87. Please tell me you were at least born in '87. Were
75.
You born
I was born in 75.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 45. So
you just have that young look to you. But there was every city, especially like the Phoenix, had 2 or 3 independent dental supply houses. And then Pete Frechette went and got a big line of credit from Wall Street, and it started this massive consolidation. And they swallowed up Healthco and everything around here, and it really consolidated down to about 4 suppliers, right? Shine, Patterson, Benco, Burkhart. And then it's starting to deconsolidate again in Dentaltown. If you go in Dentaltown and put type in supply clubs, dental supply clubs, a lot of them have picked up. In fact, I've podcasted several in the last year. So do you see this trend continuing where It's still deconsolidating for a ways to go, because the cycle would predict that, as soon as it gets completely deconsolidated, then the next best idea is, hey, we ought to consolidate these all into one. So it just goes back and forth. It's kind of like that first video game. Remember the first video game? It was Pong. It was just two bars knocking a ball back and forth, and that's the cycle. So where are we at in the dental supply? Deconsolidation to consolidation, and now we're obviously deconsolidating it. How do you see the trend now in 2020?
Well, I see a lot of these group purchasing organizations coming along, and they're trying to create this, power by numbers and even the playing field, and with the DSOs and giving dentists, better deals because it's through a large group. Also, I think, going direct to consumer and bypassing the distributor. So if you can go right from the manufacturer to the consumer, I think that's a huge help for dentists and for costs. I just wanted to say that I'm such a huge fan of yours. I just wanted to, get this out there. Dentaltown has been so important for me and my career, and it's just helped me so much that not only in the way that I practice, but also mentally, just going on a website and peer-to-peer engagement and finding other dentists out there that are going through the same day-to-day issues that I'm going through, and that I'm not alone, and that, your tagline says, no dentist should ever practice solo. It's just been such a powerful thing to go on to Dentaltown and not actually meet these people, but share stories and learn, and just realize that you're not in this alone together. And you were on fire. I was listening to the podcast you just had with those 3 dental students. You may have recorded it a few days ago, but I just listened to it this morning, and you were cracking me up. You were on fire. You were telling these boys that, don't marry the hot chick at Waffle House. And, if she doesn't reach to even attempt to, grab for her credit card to pay for the bill, then that's not the one for you. And your index fund manager who is taking care of all these rich widows, and how could they not have hooked up with one of them, especially during the global pandemic? You were cracking me up. You were on fire.
That's my advice. Marrying an 80-year-old woman with $100 million. That's the best thing to do during a pandemic.
Yeah. So I just wanted to let you know how awesome Dentaltown has been, and I've just been addicted to your podcast. I had a couple eureka moments where I remember I was this is maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I live and work in the same town, so I have no commute. And my commute's like 7 minutes, so I don't really listen to many podcasts, but I had jury duty in Woburn, Massachusetts, and it took me like 45 minutes to an hour to get there with rush hour traffic. And I put on one of your podcasts for the first time, and it was you and Laura Hatch and a few others. I think it was Sandy Pardue, Unleash Your Practice. And it was just like this eureka moment where I was like, wow, this is amazing. I need to listen to more of these, because my systems in my office are antiquated, and I know that I can do better, and there's a better way to do things. And I just kept listening to your podcast, and I've just learned so much from you over the years.
Thanks for the kind words, buddy. And also, I put my 30-day dental MBA on YouTube, separate than my podcast, and my what was the other one? 30-Day Dental MBA and the Virtues of Profitable Dentistry, they're all on a separate podcast, and they're on YouTube. And what I think is really cool about that is it's kind of like geometry. A lot of it doesn't change. And to hear these young kids, I made that 30-Day Dental MBA in 1998. And every
Mm-hmm.
time some young kid tells me they loved it and it helped them so much, I'm like, well, was the information old? And they always say, no, it's kind of like business is kind of like math. I mean, it's not really going to change in 20 years. On these dental supplies, though, you brought up another interesting point. Buying direct. I mean, so the last 4 years at the Greater New York meeting, there was a
Mm-hmm.
booth by Amazon, and for the last 4 years, they're kind of like the Men at Black brothers. They're sitting there at this booth, and everybody's like, okay, what's the play? But again, Amazon is a distributor. It's not buying direct. Do you see? Whenever I looked at Amazon, I always thought, well, do you think 3M will ever sell direct to dentists? Do you think they'll ever sell direct through Amazon, or do you think they'll always go through distributors? I'm still waiting for a big major to weigh in. Like if Dentsply Sirona said, "Oh yeah, we'll just sell direct." I mean that would be an earthquake in the dental industry if
Right.
Dentsply Sirona or 3M or Danaher or some big monster company. Do you
Yeah.
ever see any of those guys selling direct on Amazon or direct to a dentist or direct
I
for
hope
you?
so. I hope so. And I approached a bunch of these large conglomerate companies to join my site, and a lot of them said, no, that's not their model. We go through distributors, and it's just not our model. Um, so with them, you can't just go from A to B. It's more challenging. But I'd love to just be able to buy 3M products or buy some other products directly from the manufacturer. But it's just right now it's not that simple. Um, but you mentioned your 30-day MBA. That was going to be my Corona shutdown project, but I'd had this idea for this website for about a year or so, and that became my Corona shutdown project. So your 30-day MBA, I haven't gotten to yet, but
Well, take us through your journey. I mean, why was this on the list? I mean, you got you learned implants. You're doing all these different things. How did dental supplies? Because when I look at still, I mean, insurance. I mean, when I got out of school, I would bill Delta $1,000 for a crown, and they just told you what percent they'd pay, and it was 50%. Then they
mhm.
switched to a PPO fee. Now it's 650. I get 350 less. Then next would be labor, 25%. Next would be lab, 10%. Supplies is down here, 4 to 6%. What made supplies move to the top? And what was going on in your journey where you thought I want to focus on this?
Yeah, and it wasn't even just supplies. It was I do a lot of implants, and I'd always looked for an implant bundle package. Like I said, earlier in your intro, that like the buy 20 implants and get the free surgical kit, or buy 10 and get two free. So there was always that um, hidden kind of bundle package, and a lot of the time, some of the reps, you'd have to talk to the rep directly and ask them for it, or they would say wait until the convention price, or the trade show price. And I had happened to be in the market for some more implant inventory, and I needed a new implant motor. So I contacted Han, the Glidewell implant, which I was really interested in their implant because I loved the design looked really cool, and I had taken um, a course with Jack Han, and they threw in a new implant motor if I bought 40 implants. So I said, this is awesome, but what if I never asked? Or what if there's other packages out there that I just don't know about from other companies, and not just with implants, with all dental companies, or even dental services. Um, and I was also at the same time I was in the market for a new business credit card. So I was looking for a cashback rewards card, and I went on these credit card comparison sites, which I know they're obviously these credit card comparison sites. Um, they have arrangements where companies will pay to get more exposure. But I just loved the layout of how easily you could compare credit cards. You could see their specials, whether it was travel rewards or cash back rewards. And the way they had the layout was so user friendly. You could target a specific category or browse all the specials. So I wanted to combine the two. I wanted to make a site for dentists to be able to go to and be able to find all the specials and discounts that are out there from vendors across the industry, not just supplies but services, consultants, marketing. Just have a go-to place where dentists can find deals and save money and feel like they feel good about their purchase, that they got a good deal.
Is there a credit card comparison website that you would recommend to anyone?
No, I actually from Dentaltown, I think Doctor of Credit. I went on there, but I think they're all the same.
Dr. Credit?
Doctor of Credit was one that was recommended by someone on Dentaltown. But I just started searching there, and there's probably hundreds of them. NerdWallet, Credit Card Compare. There's so many of them, but they're all really similar. But I just like the layout of them.
I want to. You said so many things that I need to follow up on. Most implant companies will sell direct to the dentist, right? I mean, are there any major dental implant companies that you have to buy through a third-party distributor?
No, most I was able to buy direct, but usually you would have to talk to the rep and kind of make a deal with the rep. Oh, hey, can you give me, buy 10 and get 2 free, or can you throw in a surgical kit or a restorative kit if I buy a certain amount of implants? So there is a little bit of sometimes a little extra wheeling and dealing that you have to do. And when I first got out of school, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know about these deals or how to negotiate. And for dentists that are just coming out of school or just buying their practice, they may not know to do this as well. But yeah, I typically will go right to the rep of that. I'll find the rep of that company and I'll talk to them and try to get the best deal possible for my needs.
A big problem in the United States on when you said that you asked the person, you said, well, if I wouldn't have asked about this deal, would you have told me, that I would get a free motor? A lot of it is so cultural. Like some countries, I've lectured all around the world. Some countries, like just Mexico, they love to haggle the price. I mean, it's not even fun for a woman to go to the market and buy something for the stated price. I mean, they come to America and it's like, this is a boring way to shop. And some people, the whole deal of shopping is just bartering and negotiating back. Whereas in America, it's like, it's just not a cultural thing. And then what happens is you start getting close to someone and then they just start letting the price drift up because they know you're not ever going to do that. And I've had this personally happen to me where, the closer you get as a friendship, your price gets higher and higher to where you eventually have to fire them and go get someone young and hungry, willing to will and deal. Do you see that with U.S. dentists, that it's just a culture to not haggle on price, and that people buying stuff in other countries are just so much more into negotiating and haggling the price?
Yeah, well, I think you also have the DSOs that have such purchasing power, and they're getting the best deal out there possible. And I know a lot of dentists that just don't care; they'll just take whatever price is given to them. And a lot of other dentists that are very cost conscious, and they'll look for a deal. So I think it's kind of all over the board. But in doing some research for my website, I talked to a lot of reps and salesmen to try to find out what it was like to sell to dentists. And they all said kind of the same thing, that, we're kind of a fickle bunch. We're always, we don't have much business background. I think I had an hour of business class, in 4 years of dental school. Yet we have I think it's one of the only businesses where you can have a successful business without any business experience and be very successful. Um, so they, and that dentists a lot of times don't see that return on investment. They just see that monthly fee. They don't see 5 to 7 years down the road of their return on investment. So they're just looking at that upfront. What is my monthly fee? And mention that a lot of times dentists will have what they call alligator arms. We're not willing to stretch out and or try something new. Um, or
Dentists
they'll
have,
just
I've
wait.
never heard that. Dentists have elephant arms.
Alligator arms.
Oh, alligator arms. Say it again. Dentists have
Yeah.
alligator arms because they're not willing to stretch.
Yeah, we're not willing to stretch out.
My God, I would
Yeah.
figure if someone said that they were from Florida,
Yeah,
not up
yeah.
where you are. Did you
Yeah.
hear that when you were on vacation in Florida?
No, I was just talking to one of the reps from one of the dental companies. I was just asking his advice and his experience with
That is a neat one. I've
dentists.
never heard of that one. Not even close.
Yeah. Or they say that a lot of dentists will just wait. Well, now it's different post COVID, but they'll just wait until the convention price, or waiting to go to Yankee Dental to find out what kind of deal they can get at the trade show. But that's maybe totally different now post COVID.
But let's talk about that. Do you think when you're at a convention and they say this is the convention special and the convention's Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Do you think that the convention special is not available on Monday? I mean, is that a real deal, or is that just trying to create an artificial crisis so that you buy right now today? I mean, they do it with
Yeah.
cars all the time.
Right.
4th of July special, and you got to buy it today, and it's like, well, what about July 5th? Oh no, it's got to be. But
Yeah.
So is that a real deal? Is that their model, or can you in fact get the convention price the following week?
I think you can get it the following week. It's hype. They're there to sell. They have they're investing a lot of money into those big booths, and they want to close that deal just like you said, a car. At the car dealerships, they'll do whatever it takes for you to to buy that car that day. So I think that's kind of the same thing going on at dental conventions. But do you think the dental convention is a way of the past, or do you think it'll be like a hybrid where it'll be part live, part virtual? What do you think?
Well, if I want to not upset my physics instructor from Creighton University, I have to first declare that there is no such thing as the future or the past. There is only the present.
Right.
So when anybody starts, Warren Buffett even talks about that that anybody predicting the future is crazy. But in saying that, yeah, I think the model is dead during the pandemic. I mean, it's insane. And I know everybody wants to wish it away, but Israel just opened up their schools. I just posted a deal under Dental Town, Israel, and they had instant outbreaks of coronavirus and instantly decided that was a bad idea. And then I'm hearing the same thing in Georgia. And I'm here in Arizona. I'm sure everybody's hearing their own local news, but here in Arizona, it's it's a big crisis. Are you going to open up the schools? I mean, half of Arizona, like Florida, thinks this is a conspiracy. It's like the flu. The people are just being crazy. And that is about 80% of the Ferran family pedigree, too. I mean, so this is even in my own family. But the other half is like, hell no, I'm not going to. I'd rather have my kid home and dumb than dead. And it's just crazy times. But, well, you would know about the Yankee. I mean, the American Dental Association, their next annual meeting in Miami, they already said that's going to be virtual. You're in Massachusetts. Have you talked to anybody at the Yankee Dental Convention? Or are they even thinking about having that one again? Or is that going to be all virtual?
I'm not sure. I imagine it's going to go virtual. That's my guess. Yeah. That's my guess.
It's crazy times. And, I know it's a very different pandemic for you, being younger than someone like me. But, I mean, 60-year-old, I turned 58 this month. And I look at the numbers. And, I mean, 20 and under as far as dying, that's a pretty rare event. I mean, that's not even, 2%. But, man, 60 and over, 70 and over, 80 and over. I mean, I feel like, for me looking at the math here in Arizona, that if I was to seek care for COVID and go to the hospital because I thought I needed to be seen. I couldn't stay home anymore just with a bad flu. That if I seek care, it's a 7.5% chance you're not coming out of there alive.
Not coming out, right?
And in dentistry, people don't think about the demographics of the patient versus the dentist. So the patients, dental patients are from birth to 100 years old. But dentists, they're not even born till they're 25, and then they retire at 65. So that 50th percentile dentist is about 45. So the whole back half of the dentist from 45 to 65, they're like, I don't want to get the coronavirus. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and then
I
they
wonder.
had that. Yeah. And that convention in Vancouver, Canada, right at the dawn of the meeting. So they, it was a 50-50 how they would call that. And when they called the meeting to go, a lot of other meetings were called to go. Hinman, I think, was the first big major meeting to put their foot down and say, no, we're not doing this.
Yep.
But British Columbia did it, and they had some very bad outcomes from that. I was shocked at Atlanta because I think of all the states that would, want to social distance, Georgia, Florida, and Arizona would have been dead last. And I bet you when they closed down that meeting, I bet that you couldn't even imagine how big the pushback would be on that because, it's true. If you're an international viewer, more people in Arizona, Georgia, and Florida think this is an overreaction than think it's a real scientific pandemic to go hunker down and hide. Do you, yeah, we could go on that forever and ever and ever. So is this, when people start thinking about buying supplies, a lot of people think, well, I don't want to buy supplies from Eric on dealsfordentist.com because what if my compressor goes out and I need to call my Patterson Benco rep or whatever. They want them out there fixing that compressor today. Does this alter your relationship with your maintenance, installation equipment? Do you even sell dental equipment?
No, actually, my website, I don't actually even sell anything. I just want to connect the dentist to the dental company. And so I would even have a Shine or a Benco and or one of the big supply companies join if they had a good, enticing, attractive new customer offer for a dentist to go on there and become a new client of theirs. But I think that is a major source of revenue and power of the major supply companies like the Shines is that they do have that ability to maintain, or you can call them and they'll come and help you fix some of your equipment. So I guess they have created that relationship where if you buy from us, then we will also help you, fix your equipment if needed. But my site doesn't actually sell anything. It's more just kind of a marketplace to connect.
And when did the site go live? I'm on the site right now. Deals for dentist, and dentist is plural. Did you buy dentist singular? Did you buy deals for dentist? Dentist without the S or with just the S after dentist?
Just the S, yeah. Deals for dentist, plural.
Yeah, you might want to buy deals for. There's a this guy showed me this site of people trying to Google your website and missing, and you get to see how many misses to go back and buy the other URLs. So dealsfordentist.com. I go on this site, I see home, about us, podcast, see the deals, blog, partners, contact us. So most people going to that site click first, see the deals.
Yeah, that's where you'll find the promos and the companies and their new customer offers. And then there's a call to action button where you can click and it'll link to a landing or sales or contact page for that company.
Okay. So I see it. You got Glidewell IO in-office solution, PBHS dental website design, merchant advocate. You got tons of them. Cedar Solutions. He's a big townie. Muller Media Mount. I podcasted him. These are really neat. You've done a lot of work. So you pretty much have done all of this since the pandemic started?
Yeah, that was my project. My routine was I'd get up at about 5 a.m. and I'd throw on one of your podcasts and I would start YouTubing, learning how to develop a website, and I started contacting a lot of the vendors that I have relationships with, and they were also looking for a way to contact dentists directly and go directly to dentists. So, in between breaking up fights between my 5 and 7 year old and getting criticized for being poor at homeschooling, this was my pandemic project. So, um, it's that's what I did with my time.
Yeah, we had to cancel the homeschooling because the teacher kept drinking on the job all day. I can't believe you did that. So now logistics. Did you hire a programmer or did you teach yourself programming? I mean, are you
I
programming this site or do you have someone else doing that?
I have I can't actually code, so I can do as much as I can, and then when I get into trouble, I call this developer that I hooked up with, and he gets me out of trouble. But I work with a developer, and but a lot of the websites now are the WordPress websites. They're drag and drop, and they're become really user friendly. Um, so I learned a lot of it just through podcasts and YouTube videos.
I'm real. Have you heard of that site? I think it's called Adam. Have you heard of the website Adam for teaching programming? But I never heard of this ever. And now I'm running into. I've already run into two different families where their kid downloaded. They said it was Adam,
Hmm.
and but anyway, online programming. In fact, I have some friends that said, my kids are gonna be home and homeschool. I'm just gonna have them go to this site and just learn how to program because that's a
Yeah.
real job. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's a. I
Yeah.
mean, you could learn history and geometry and political science and underwater basket weaving for 4 years, get a degree from ASU, and still be unemployed. But my God, you become a programmer at any level, you have a job, don't you?
Yep. If you learn how to code, you're all set.
Oh my gosh, it is amazing. And when kids tell me they want to go to dental school, I said, well, if I was going to dental school, I'd still be learning how to program, and I would also
Yep.
learn that what's that AI language that they're always talking about? Python. I mean,
Python.
it seems like,
Yeah.
and you got to pay attention to the programmers. 'Cause I notice the programmers, they're all teaching their kids Python. It's
Hmm.
like, so it's okay. If all the programmers are, if the programmers are homeschooling, they just want their kids learning program. And if they're getting older, they want them to learn Python. But yeah, that seems like, I mean, everybody's bilingual because math is a language of science. And then the international language of science used to be German. Thank God. That was one great thing that came out of World War II is that we didn't have to go to dental school and learn everything in German. That was really
Right.
sweet when they had the German and the Japanese language taken away because it used to be the language of science. I mean, and now that's English. But to know math and to know English and to know programming, my gosh, that's the future. I mean,
Yeah.
if you could speak three languages, math, English, and programming, that's a hell of a deal.
The IT company, when they come into our office and they try to explain what they're doing, I look at them. I tell them, explain this to me like I'm a 5 year old because what you're telling me is just going right over my head. It's like another language, like you said. So that is the future.
So let me hold your feet to the fire. So on your two kids, are you gonna tell Charlotte and Axel to be a dentist or a programmer? Why did you become a dentist? What was on your journey to become a dentist? And if you had to do it over again, if you could go back in time in a time machine, that's why I bought a DeLorean because I occasionally drive back in time. But if you had, why did you become a dentist? And if you could go back in time, would you have been a programmer? And would you recommend Charlotte and Axel be dentists or programmers?
I probably would have invested in Amazon stock. That if I could go back in time, that would have been. But
And that saved
yeah,
Warren Buffett this year. His Amazon stock is up 35 billion. Everybody was throwing this old man under a bus because he sold his airlines at a big loss and all this stuff, but he's up for the year 35 billion just from his Apple holdings.
unbelievable.
Apple stock. But go on.
Yeah. So my dad's a dentist. He's a retired dentist. He lives down in Florida now. But so I've always been around it. But I went to school at Tulane, and in New Orleans, of course, there's a lot of fun and distractions. And I was actually out at a bar, and I was drinking with a bottle of beer, and I just missed, and I cracked number 9, and I my friends were scrambling around on the floor of the bar to try to get the piece of tooth, just to mess with me. And one of them kept it in his wallet for like a week, just to kind of rub it in my face. And I ended up going to a local dentist who patched me up, and I just really liked the. I had such a pleasant experience, and I loved the art and science of it. And then I started hanging around my dad's office at the time, and um, ended up applying. I applied and got into Nova. I was the second class to graduate at Nova Southeastern. I think the first class, when they interviewed, it was just a pile of dirt. The school didn't even exist yet. Um, but that was kind of my story of how I ended up wanting to become a dentist. And I initially went to Tulane, and I was going to apply to the business school. And I sat through 1 or 2 lectures of macro and microeconomics with 500 students in the class, and I just said, this isn't for me. So I ended up going the dental route.
It is really cool. I mean, people who go to dentistry, I mean, they study 8 years to be able to work with their hands to, like you broke off your front tooth and they fix it. I mean, my hero in the mirror is when someone comes in the mirror in the office and they're holding their face. I love it when they have to drink cold water. I mean, they're in pain, and you just feel so good. Like, I went to school so I can help you get out of that pain,
Yep.
and dentists and physicians are a totally different package of people than, say, lawyers or business
Hmm.
people. Even going back to Creighton, you could spot a business major versus a pre-med, pre-dental. I mean, you could spot them, 25 feet away. Number one, they were always drinking and bringing girls back to the dorm while you were reading a physics book.
Right.
That was the most obvious giveaway. But yeah, I think dentists are just a cool bunch of people like that. So is your dad still practice?
He's retired. He's down in Florida now, and
What part of Florida did he go to?
he's in Boca Raton.
Oh, I love Boca Raton. Man,
Yeah.
that's where GE always holds their annual meetings. That is an amazing place. It's kind of weird if you're east of the Mississippi River, all the Northerners go down to Florida, and you just
Yeah.
cross the Mississippi, and it's all Arizona. And
Arizona.
it really just comes down to that river. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's why Florida and Arizona are the same states. I mean, they always say that whenever you hear Florida in the news around here, they always say that Arizona is the Florida of the West. It's just as crazy as Florida. Um, so was the business deal was different, big class and all that stuff. Do you think dentists? I've always said that dentists are shy, they're introverts, or they're more closely related to a scientist or an engineer. They even talk about crown and bridge and foundations. Do you think more dentists are the people that are attract dentistry are more introvert, and do you think that's why so much of the stresses they have in dentistry, it seems like all their stresses are always related to people? It's either the patient or the staff.
Hmm.
It seems like my homies, they'd rather be at home alone on YouTube than dealing with a bunch of people. Do you think being an introvert? Are you an introvert? Have issues with that, or do you think the profession does?
I'm definitely an introvert, and I think the reason I've acknowledged that I'm an introvert because um, going through a day of dentistry can be so exhausting with all of the clinical work that you do, the running the business. You wear so many hats as a dentist. You're dealing with the staff, the HR, the business, the patients. You're running around checking hygiene patients. You're uh, working on a patient in your chair. You're getting them numb, and sometimes it's an emotional conversation you're having with this patient, or you're focused on this one little 2 millimeter, this 2 millimeter space, and then you have to go on and put your happy face on to these hygiene patients and make them feel like they're the only one in the office at the time. And by the end of the day, you're just, you're junk. And I would come home and I would just want to stare at the wall for an hour and decompress. So that's how I felt like I was an introvert. Is the way that I recharged is I would need to just kind of be on my own, and I would run out of gas by the end of the day. Where some extroverts, I think they feed off that energy and they get more energized talking to people, and it almost helps them relieve stress in talking to people. Where myself, I needed to kind of just be by myself and kind of decompress that way. So I think stress is a major factor in dentistry, um, especially for young dentists that are out of school and they're trying to find their way, and or a solo practitioner. The peer engagement is so important to relieve that stress, and to talk to other dentists that are going through the same things that you're going through, because a lot of times, especially a solo practitioner, can be in their own little bubble, and they need that outlet to talk to their peers. Personally, I found going through some therapy, um, playing a lot of tennis, listening to music, doing things that made me happy, um, relieved a lot of stress. So I'm a pretty calm person. When I'm out on the tennis court, I'm like a bulldog. I'm in, nothing else matters except for
Do
that,
you yell at the ref when you're out there, like
just
McEnroe?
just at myself. Yeah, yeah. Where I'm playing, there aren't any umpires. So,
Oh,
but I felt like doing a workout. I used to go to Orange Theory a lot. I used to play tennis, yoga, listen to music, whatever it took to kind of just get away from dentistry, and or go for a walk during lunch, and just kind of decompress from the day-to-day stresses were so important, because in this business there's a lot of sleepless nights, and especially for young dentists that are just coming out, they're trying to find their way, and they're trying to find out what procedures they're good at and what they like. So it can be a difficult journey. So I think like what you've done on Dental Town, and that peer-to-peer engagement is so important to talk to your peers, and discuss your day-to-day dentistry.
yeah. This has gone from a commercial for deals for dentists to now Dental Town. I'm loving it. We'll just keep talking
Yeah,
about how great
yeah,
Dental Town is.
yeah, yeah.
um,
Well, it's
well, yeah. Do you going back to the corona? I mean, what percent do you think? I mean, dentistry obviously it's a stressful position. I mean, it just is. I mean, my dad pointed this out to me when I told him in grammar school I wanted to be a dentist. He thought it was a crazy idea. And he even told me that, everybody that comes to Sonic, they're so happy. You couldn't beat the smile off their face with a crowbar because they're about to eat a
yeah,
cheeseburger and fries and tater tots. And then I would go to work with Kenny Anderson, and people are crying or upset, or you can just tell these are two different worlds. I remember taking my four boys to Disneyland. You can't even make this stuff up. And the kid in front of us, he was so excited and jumping up and down. He literally had a mess in his diaper and had to be changed. I mean, no one is so excited to get a root canal that they, pooped their pants in the waiting room. But now that you've had add on the pandemic, the corona, the shutdown. I mean, we had to shut down from St. Patrick's Day to Cinco de Mayo. How much extra stress do you think this has been for dentists, and how do you think they're handling it? The ADA is reporting an increase of suicides. We have a board, a thread on Dental Town about suicides. We just had one the other day here in town. Do you think it's been an extra really big deal?
oh yeah. I think that if I was 65 or 70 years old, I probably would have just packed it in and sold to a DSO. Um, but I personally, I didn't get too scared by the whole thing. In fact, um, uh, the silver lining for me of the corona was that we had a good chance to kind of reset the office. We had time to look into some systems and get some systems in place. We had a lot of Zoom meetings with the staff. We did some role playing. We did a lot of things that we never had time to do. Also, our right now our office looks like a meth lab. Everything's tarped up, and we look like the guys from Breaking Bad. So patients feel really safe. So I actually feel like it's been a calmer way to practice, personally, because I'm not running around with my head cut off checking, three or four hygiene chairs. I'm focusing on that one patient where, we've added more time per procedure. Patients are really appreciative of all we've done. We have, we have we have the HEPA filters and the hypochlorous acid fogger, and everything's tarped up. So patients feel really safe, and um, we've added a digital scanner. So I've actually felt that the COVID post or AC after COVID has been, for me, a pretty good experience, other than the fact that, where our production is going to be way down. But it's been a relaxed way of practicing. So I think that's been the silver lining. And so we actually had the time to purchase and train with a scanner, and I've really
Which scanner did you get, and why?
We ended up getting the Trios 3 shape, and I'd always done polyvinyl impressions, and I never thought that it's just so easy to take an impression. But we hooked up with this company called Dandy Labs, and it was a offer we couldn't refuse. They gave us all the equipment for free. It was risk free, and we just had to give them a certain amount of lab work a month. And we ended up getting a Trios 3 shape scanner. And I found that the scanning, I really look forward to doing it. It makes me happy. I enjoy taking a scan. It's impressive to the patients. My staff loves it. So it's kind of invigorated the crown process. So that's been one of the positives of COVID, is we actually had the time to look into that and pull the trigger on a scanner.
Now, was that a deal on your website?
No, that was just something totally separate. I've reached out to them, and they're interested in joining my website because they have such a great deal to offer to dentists, that I think it would be great for more dentists to know about it. But they're going to be getting back to me. They're going through some marketing strategies right now, so they're going to be getting back to me about joining my website.
So you bought the Trios 3 shape. Was there a number to it, or in any particular model that you decided?
It was
Or is it just one model?
I think it's the Trios 3 shape, but I think the newest model had just come out, maybe the 4. So I think we're with the 3, if I'm not mistaken. And we've been really happy with it.
What I really love about 3 shape, if you go to Copenhagen, Denmark, and see 3 shape, or you go to Helsinki, Finland, where they have Plan Mecca, you got to get to know that tribe, and that tribe pretty much is under complete darkness for about 4 months out of the year. And everybody at those companies, the dentists included, said basically you got 2 options to survive the winter. Either you're going to work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and just be the best that you can, or you're going to lay at home in your basement drinking beer and vodka all winter. And they said that's really your only 2 options. And so then when you go there as a tourist, when you go the nicest time of year, like June, July, August, everybody that works at all the restaurants, the dental companies, they're all on vacation. I mean, there's almost no one there. I mean, you can go into a bar in Copenhagen in July and wait an hour for a waitress because they're all outside. They're all in the, down at the Mediterranean. But I think they make the best products in the world in Scandinavia because I mean, those I know dentists down there that work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week during the whole winter. I
Hmm.
mean, they say that's the only way they can mentally stay through that winter is just total work and productivity. And that's why I'm so glad I didn't go to ASU. I mean, I went to Creighton and it was just like, always snowing and sleet and ice.
Yeah.
And so many days we all had really bad intentions of just not doing a thing. And we'd look at the window and then me and Gary Asaldi and Randy Kerwin, their dentists, we just say, well, might as well just study. I mean, there's
Study.
nothing
Yeah.
else to do. So let's
Right.
just study. So many of the things where we get credit for studying so hard was only because we had no other alternatives. In fact, when my four boys were in college, I said, you know what? They should make all the colleges on Antarctica. Just pass a global rule. We'll send all the kids to Antarctica, and they have to stay there 4 years. And the environment's everything. So you got it. So we're talking about stress in dentistry, and you chose to get into implants. A lot of people would say, "Well, that's a great idea to make your life more stressful." Well, why would you do that? It seems like when I'm coaching these little kids that I look at dentistry. It's a 2-century-old profession going back to Pierre Fichard, 100 years back to G.V. Black. But dentistry is a pretty mature industry for the last 30, 40 years, and it's growing pretty much right at with inflation, except for two areas: clear aligners and implants. Double-digit growth, explosive growth. You pick the blood and guts implants. Some people pick the soft and pretty bleaching bonding veneers. You got a scanner, and I'm pointing out that you got a 3Shape, which is a great scanner, but you're an implantologist. Where a lot of people, they're going into Invisalign, they would have got Invisalign Align Technology also owns iTero. Do you think that more implant people that are just purely implant are going with 3Shape? And do you do Invisalign? And could you jump into clear aligners, do you think, just as easily with 3Shape? Or to talk about the scanner, because it seems like the homies I talk to, if they're just an implant play, they're going 3Shape. But if they want that clear aligner business, they're getting Align. What did you have those thoughts? Or
Yeah, I think, like you said, the if you're uh, with Invisalign and you're doing, you're hooked up with Invisalign, then the iTero makes sense. Um, we went with the 3Shape, although I was looking at the Medit, and on Dental Town, the Medit has been a really popular um, scanner, especially Blue Sky plan users, which I use Blue Sky Plan, the free implant planning software. Um, so I think that Medit was the other one that it was between the 3Shape and the Medit. I was going back and forth between those two. But we just ended up getting a great offer from this Dandy Lab. I haven't gotten into clear aligners yet, um, but I'm focusing on the scanning and crown scanning and implant scanning right now. Um, Clear aligners maybe in the future, maybe chairside milling, um, but really what it comes down to, I think, is if it's something that makes you happy. I enjoy doing implants. I had a lot of training at BU. I'm very comfortable doing it. I Early on in my career, I tried everything. I tried endo. I tried aesthetic gingival grafting, um, extensive bone grafting and sinus lift cases, and it made me too stressed. I was not looking forward to those procedures. I didn't enjoy it. So I stuck with bread and butter dentistry, crown and bridge, removable, and implants, mostly, onesies, twosies, occasionally, full arch or, a bigger case. But now with the guided surgery, it's even created it to be less stressful and more accurate and more efficient. I had a case last week. I placed 3 implants on this guy, and it took me about 45 minutes from start to finish because I had the digital workflow. I took a CT scan. We scanned his teeth. I merged the scan and the his CBC together. I virtually planned his implants. I 3D printed my guide, and I did that all ahead of time. So the actual surgery was so straightforward and stress free that the patient actually joked. He's like, "I should get a discount because that you did that so quick." And I said, "Yeah, but I it would have taken me twice as long if I didn't do all the pre planning that I did." And he was just joking, but and then meanwhile, I was futzing around with a number 20 DO the other day, and that was more stressful than doing those 3 implants. So I found that the guided implant surgery now has just made it so much more efficient and less stressful that I'm enjoying it more than ever now.
I want to go back to Dandy because some of the viewers might be confused. That was formerly Orthly, right?
Correct.
So that's Patrick Lee. So Tony Aloco, he's another co-founder of Dandy. So do you? But take us back to your journey. They're a lab out of New York, New York. So how did you find Dandy, and how? Talk about your journey there. And are you friends or talk to Tony or Patrick Lee or any of those guys?
Not yet. I haven't actually talked to them. We found them through my partner's, a friend of his mentioned this company, and it sounded too good to be true. They were offering a scanner, the computer, all the equipment with no upfront charges. There was no risk. We just had to spend a certain amount of lab work a month with them, and that was the deal. And they sent us the scanner. They trained us, all for no upfront cost. So it was a no brainer. The only issue is that they're in control of the lab that they send the work to. So that was a little concerning for us in that we didn't have control over what lab.
Oh, so
The
they're not a Crown and Bridge lab then. They're a middleman. You send them so much work, and that
Correct.
they send them out to other
Yep.
people.
So
Interesting.
that was a bit concerning. So if the lab work came back poor, then we probably would have just cut the cord, and I would have ended up going with the Medit. Um, but the lab work has come back great. I feel like the crowns are fitting better than my regular PVS impressions. I feel like the margins are better. There's been less adjustments, so I've been really happy with it.
Huh, that is a very interesting, and they also have clear aligners. So Dandy aligners. I mean, Patrick Lee's also the has the Dandy aligners. So it sounds like you could also do clear aligners with this technology, correct?
Yeah, I with clear aligners, I haven't jumped into that yet because I feel like I need to really do my homework and research before I just jump into something. Um, but yes, that's something I'm going to be looking into in the future to add to the practice.
But it's one of those things where my gosh, your your clear aligners. I mean, if someone's looking at the future of clear aligners, I mean, gosh darn, just Smiles Direct Club alone would tell you that the between teledentistry, telemedicine, the pandemic, Smiles Direct Club, doesn't it look like a future of having a skill of surgically placing implants looks a lot more solid for several decades to come? I mean, the only threat I see to implant guys like you is that Chinese robot that placed that one implant, and now they got there's one in Florida that's put in a couple, but I think that's I think it's seriously 10 to 20 years off before I
Yeah,
can stay home in my jacuzzi drinking a Corona beer while my robot is placing an implant
yeah,
at today's dental. That's a long way off, but I'm seeing the clear aligners business. I mean that is aggressive competition.
it is. Yeah, and I think more and more companies are popping up. Um, but I personally, I would want to uh, do some research, some CE courses. I'd start with very simple cases, and stick with adults only at first, before I jumped into that. Um, and also chairside milling I may look into. Um, Even though some of these things, I think clear aligners and surgical guided implants, there's a good return on investment. Um, but with chairside milling, I don't think necessarily the return on investment may be there for me. But if it's something that I enjoy doing and it makes me look forward to going to work and practicing, then I think it's something that I may try. But for now, I'm just, kind of enjoying just doing my scanning and implants. Yeah.
And where do you recommend training for implants? If someone was listening right now and said, I wanna learn how to surgically place implants," and you went with the Han implant system, right?
Yeah, I've used when I got out of BU, I used 3i, and then I switched over to Nobel. I used Nobel Replace, then Nobel Active. I've used Implant Direct Legacy system for a while. Their interactive system. Those are excellent systems. And then I recently tried the Han system because I really liked the design of it. It's a Nobel Active clone, but I really liked the aggressive thread design that it has. Um, so I've been really happy with the Han, and then the customer service from Glidewell is top notch. Where if they're all about the customer. So if I'm missing a part, they'll sometimes just send it to me for free. They're willing to give me a bundle deal for a new motor or my next purchase. When I buy more implants, they're going to throw in a fully guided surgical kit. So I've been really happy with the implant and the customer service that I get along with it. Uh,
I love Jim Glidewell, and we almost lost him. He got COVID, and he was in there for 17. This is a boy from L.A. that went to Vietnam, drafted with his buddy, and his buddy didn't come back, and started a lab in his apartment, and the year of Vietnam was the worst year of his life until he got COVID-19. He told me, he said 17 days he was laying there
wow.
looking at the ceiling,
Hmm.
knowing that he wasn't going to come out of there alive.
Wow.
And he said that it was worse than Vietnam. And no time in Vietnam did he lay on the ground and stare at the sky thinking
Hmm.
this is it. But for 17 days he thought that was it. And oh my gosh, what? But and now this is what surprised me, leaders. So after that, here's a guy who has more money than God, right? And you would think most dentists, if they had 1/10 of that money, just would have quit. And
Right.
here's this guy after all of that. This is the leader in him. This is why he's Jim Glidewell. After that, for that 17 days when he knew he wasn't going to live, he thought of everything that he wished he would have got done at Glidewell. So as soon
Right.
as they let him out of the hospital, he goes back to Glidewell, and
Right
now
back
he's
to work.
working 10 times harder than ever before. And
Wow.
he's telling me how he's trying to work with more focus and more intention. And so sometimes I always tell the boys, rock, sand, and water. That you wake up in the morning and people, the freshest part of their day, and the first thing they'll do is they'll check their social media, their email, or they'll go do this or that. And it's like, man, you should start your day with what is the biggest, most important thing I could get done today. Let's
Yeah.
work on that first,
Right.
and I might not get time to get to all the others. Whereas most people say, well, let me get rid of all this other stuff and check my email and go do all these things, and then they don't even get to the big guy at the end of the day. I mean, you even see
Hmm.
it with emails. I mean, a lot of people, it's like when I touch an email, I only touch it once. So when I get an email, it's either going to be reply, delete, send to someone else. But then, other people do these big important emails just keep building up while they go on to all these other little smaller emails. You know what I mean? So it's like being able to weight your problems. So can you give any more insight on Dandy on why it was formerly, just for people who know it as Orthly, what was Orthly? Why is it new Dandy? And any insights there?
Good question. I think that they could probably answer that better, but they mentioned that they're focusing on the Dandy Lab part of it now, and they're going to revisit the ortholy section of their business is what I heard from them. But they could probably tell you better. Just to get back to your question that you asked, if I was a young dentist coming out of school and I wanted to learn implants, personally, I would do as much research on Dental Town, YouTube, and hook up with a local mentor, like a local orthodontist or periodontist, and watch them place implants as much as possible. And I'm sure that they would love it if you hooked up with your oral surgeon and your local periodontist. And then the courses that which I don't know how it's going to be post COVID, but a lot of those hands-on courses that you can go overseas or down to Mexico or some other countries, and you can place. I've heard some courses you can place 20 or 30 implants in a weekend and do all this great hands-on experience, or like a 7-day course. So I would start with that, and case selection is so important. Starting with a good case that a good patient to work on, with a lot of bone, I think is the best way to start out.
Yeah, patient selection is just everything. I mean, when I did my first implant, a funny thing, when I was doing my first, when I was getting my diploma at the International Congress of Implantology, my fellowship at the Mission Institute, I mean, like my first dozen implants were all family members. I mean, this would have to, if anything went south, it'd have to ruin a family reunion before. And then some of these kids, they think, oh, well, that front tooth, that number 8, it's easy to see. That'll be an easy case. Like, no, that'll be a nightmare if she cares what it looks like. You know what I mean? And but picking what do you think are the best tooth for the first implants? Are you thinking a 6-year molar, a maxillary second bicuspid? What if someone was going to do their first implant? Where would you place it?
Well, the 6-year molars are so common. Number 19, 30, 3 and 14. Those are my most common implants, or an upper premolar. You just they have to be careful of for the molars, the inferior alveolar nerve or the mental nerve, and for the upper posterior, you have to worry about the sinus. So I would definitely recommend. I'm a big CBCT guy. I take a CBCT on all my implant cases, and I print up a surgical guide. Even though I did my first probably 750 implants without a guide. I wouldn't have changed it. I learned so much doing it freehanded, but now because of the accuracy and all the information you can get with a CT scan, I would start there, and then probably start with a 6-year molar area or upper premolar. I definitely wouldn't start in the anterior.
And what CBCT scan did you go with?
We ended up going with Gendex, which is now Cavo Kerr. This is we got it about 7 or 8 years ago. And I chose it because it's a small field of view. It was a 6x8 field of view. And then they also have a endo field of view. So they have 2 options. But I wanted a small field of view because I didn't want to scan the whole patient's head and then be responsible for diagnosing their spine or their whatever else was visible on the scan. So I wanted a small field of view that would just get the jaw. But that was Gendex, and I think Gendex is now Cavo Kerr.
Yeah, and then Cavo Kerr became that was Danaher, and then Danaher spun it off as Invista, right?
Oh, Invista, right.
Yeah, and my gosh, that's interesting to watch the. I don't know, pattern recognition to me is you see the same pattern, doesn't mean you understand it, but you recognize the pattern. But man, Invisa to me reminds me so much of 30 years ago when I was in Austria and there was this company called Sirona that was owned by Siemens, which is like the
Hmm.
largest Procter and Gamble Colgate of Europe. And the CEO thought they were overweighted in healthcare. They spun that off. The building didn't move, but I noticed that when they spun it off, everybody at Sirona was like, it was kind of like your parents moved out of the house. You know what I mean? And instead of trying to fight for capital allocations and permission and investment, and I watched them just explode the
Hmm.
whole CIRAC, the whole so many things until they married Dentsply, and now they're publicly traded under X-Ray. And I think Invisa is going to be the same thing. I mean, imagine owned by Danaher, and well, just imagine your parents giving it for adoption. Imagine if you went home tonight and told your two kids, Mom and Dad and I have made a decision, and we're shipping you off to the orphanage. I think Invista is going to, I mean, gosh, it's like a jail without the warden. They're going to just go do anything they want, and they're in a really interesting industry, dentistry, and I really think that I'm going to see the same thing because you certainly didn't see anybody crying when they were spun off. You know, there were
Hmm.
nobody said, "Oh, this is a bad day for dentistry." There was none of that, and I just see I think it's going to do a Sirona. I really do.
They have
I've seen
Nova
it before.
Biocare. They have
No,
Implant Direct. Yep, it's a huge company.
oh yeah. I mean, they got so many pieces, like say Implants Direct, Cavo Cur. I mean, an ortho, Ormco, orthodontics. I mean,
Hmm.
if they get someone in there with some big ideas, and the parents are gone, it'll be interesting. Well, I can't believe we went over an hour. We went well over an hour. My God, Eric, I want you to end on one separate topic. And that is, I'm not worried about older guys like you and me that are fine. I'm worried about the class of 2020. I mean, when I
Yep.
talk to those dental schools, last night I was talking to the junior senior class at University of Colorado Dental School. Man, they're scared. The seniors
Yeah.
are scared that they're going to come out and the employer's going to say, "Well, Eric, you only did 7 fillings in dental school. What the hell? You know, you're
Yep.
not a dentist. You think you're a dentist, but I did 50 fillings when I was in dental school. Now with the clinic closed, some of them have done 7. They're worried that the requirements of what they did was so little, no one wants to hire them. They won't find a job. Um, give your final thoughts to the dental schools students that are in their junior and senior year and are scared of this pandemic. What would you tell those guys?
Yeah, when they get out, just try to get as much experience as you can. If you could work for maybe a couple different styles of offices, like a private practice, family practice, or a boutique style practice, and then maybe also a DSO, and kind of find out what you like, what your likes and dislikes are, what you want to learn more of. Um, and take bits and pieces from each of these offices and try to kind of mold your own style of practice and what you're into. Um, Keep in touch with your peers. Uh, Keep that engagement going. And eventually, after a couple years or a few years of associating, and when you've honed your skills and gotten your speed up, and you found out, the procedures that you like to do on someone else's dime, then look into practice ownership. And I think practice ownership is such a great way to practice dentistry. First of all, your jokes become a lot funnier when you're the owner of a business. All of a sudden, the staff is they laugh at your jokes, but you just learn what makes you happy, learn what you want to do, and try to do things that you enjoy and reduce your stress, and stay in touch with your peers and go on Dental Town. That's my
And
last piece of
speaking
advice.
speaking of Dental Town and your website, Deals for Dentists, is that an app too?
It's mobile responsive, so I haven't built an app yet, but eventually I will.
Okay. Well, hey, best of luck, Eric. I love entrepreneurs, and when I saw you doing this, because people don't realize when you set up a dental office, you're competing with a dentist across the street. That's a whole different level of setting
Yeah,
up deals for dentists and going against publicly traded Patterson and Shine. I mean, that's a whole
yeah,
different level of competition. Just like Dental Town, the Dental Town website doesn't compete with any other dental websites. It competes with
right.
Facebook and LinkedIn and
Yeah.
Twitter and things like that. So I saw you out there going against. I saw a David and Goliath, and I said, "Well, David, come on this show." I'm always the first fan of David, especially watching him go against Goliath. So good luck to all that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm a big fan of your posts on Dental Town. Thanks for all you do for dentistry. Last final question. We were closed down St. Patrick's Day to Cinco de Mayo, and a lot of dentists, they've heard about this wave, a fall wave, even though the epidemiologists are saying no, that there's no evidence of wave. They're saying that everybody talking about that the first 5 months. They were talking about influenza pandemics in the past. They see no evidence of a wave, but they do see this thing just blowing through America. Are you, and
Hmm.
now dentists are starting to get scared. Are you scared deep down inside that Massachusetts may shut you down again? Or do you think those shutdown days are behind us and shutdowns will only be bars and restaurants and gyms?
I think it could happen again, and I
You do
think
think it could happen again?
I do. Yeah, I I tell the staff that let's work as hard as we can right now because there's a chance that we could get shut down again. And like you said, we just don't know. We know is right now. We don't know the future, but I feel like there may be another shutdown. But like you've said in your past podcasts, we're not holding our breath for that vaccine. So um, I think it's going to happen, and hopefully it's just short lived.
Well, I think you're absolutely right because yesterday, I mean, it was undeniable. The El Paso County, Colorado, is linking outbreaks to two dental offices. And back in the day, back in the '80s, you could have your autoclave quit working and not know it for a year, and people could get hepatitis and
Hmm.
have liver failure and die, and it never come back to you. And then I noticed about when they started doing that DNA analysis about 10 years ago, they'd say, "Oh wow, these people all in fact had the same lineage of a virus, and we are all tracing it back to this dental office." And so now, it's a crime scene if your autoclave quits working because they can trace it back to your office. And now I think it's the same thing. I think these health people they're gonna link these outbreaks to and new infections that
Hmm.
they're gonna get linked to dental offices. So if and there's two in one county in Colorado, so if there's two cases in Colorado and there's 50 states, I'm sure guaranteed there's one dental office in Florida doing that, just because Florida is the official crazy state of America, and Arizona is its twin sister. So yeah, it may happen again. So be safe out there, people. Wear a mask, social distance, and Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thanks, Howard.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day, buddy.